Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Inloco MetaTalks, live here in the Metaverse and Spatial. I am Inloco Sharky, your host and the virtual ambassador of Inloco Gallery, a space that lives between Dubai and the immersive realm. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a truly multidisciplinary mind, someone who doesn't just work with technology but questions it, bends it, and spiritualizes it. Our guest is Fabin Rasheed, artist, designer, technologist, and innovator. From working with AI, gesture interfaces, and blockchain to exploring deep concepts like consciousness, perception, and identity. Fabin creates works that feel less like digital artifacts and more like portals into new states. He has exhibited at some of the most respected venues in the world: Ars Electronica, Art Dubai, Museum of the Future, and many more. And it's really a pleasure for me and for Local Gallery to host this event today. Also, he helped shape creativity tech through collaborations with Adobe, Xerox Research, and others. So, whether you're here as a builder, creator, collector, or cosmic explorer, this session is for you. So, let's dive into Fabin's vision and explore what immersive creation can look like when it's rooted in both technology and soul. Fabin, the floor, or rather the metaverse, is yours. Could you start by introducing yourself and your creative journey? Where are you originally from and what brought you to Dubai and what led you into immersive technologies?
Thank you so much for inviting me to the Metaverse talk. Thank you to Elsa. Thank you to Inloco Gallery and everyone involved. It's truly an honor to be here. Yeah, I think it's a great question to start off with. What brings me to Dubai, and a bit about my background also for that matter. So I'm originally from India, south of India. I moved to Dubai about 3 years back. I started off as an engineer, an electronics engineer who became a designer, who later became an artist. I always had a penchant towards making visuals, may it be through sketching, may it be through generating, may it be through any other means for that matter. And I also had this inkling towards using technology as such. I think summarizing my journey so far, I would say that through these parts of engineering, design, and art together combined, and a bit of innovation. I worked with corporates like, as you said, like Adobe and Xerox, which formed this idea that I could do a lot of things with creativity and technology, and it's been about I don't know, the whole artistic journey has been about more than 15 years perhaps, but as an independent artist, I've been close to 6 years. And I worked with technology, including AI. I work with generative arts. I work with augmented reality, virtual reality. I'm an NFT artist. I work with blockchain. And what else? The theme which I really focus on most of the time is on consciousness, on the deeper states of mind, philosophy, and psychology. So, if I mean, you'll hear a lot about that here. So I hope you all don't get bored by that. But I'll try to keep it a little interesting. But yeah, over to you, Elsa.
Yeah, what deserves more attention? I wanted to ask you about your art journey. So you define yourself as an artist, technologist, and innovator working at intersection of creativity and consciousness. And what drives this combination? How do philosophy, psychology, and technology come together in your practice?
All right. Well, I think I didn't mention before why, one thing which attracted me to Dubai was this rising idea of a lot of technology, and basically digital art was becoming a lot here in Dubai. But to answer your question right now about how these different fields come together. So I think it's been a long time since I've been working with consciousness. I've been delving into the deeper states of mind through meditation and practices like meditative practices, and exploring how different states of mind arises. How does a thought arise? How these things move together? And one of my core investigation was into mental imagery, the images that you see in the mind's eye while visualizing or while dreaming or while in that transient state between waking and sleeping. Those images are really profound in many ways, and it has a really big capability to psychologically heal us, to have to give us insights of creativity. It can many folks like Edison, Dali, and even Google CEO Larry Page. All of these folks have explored these states, and have brought out many insights from it. And going historically also, a lot of inventions have come out of it. As I said, Google search was one of those inventions which came out of a dream. Yeah, and then there was the benzene ring. If you know, in chemistry, how that was discovered was through a dream. So a lot of these insights come from dreams as such. So as I said, my core practice goes towards exploring these states. What does these insight, where does this insight come from, and how does this insight help us, and how does this insight help the collective? Like how can we all come together into helping ourselves through these processes? So much of my projects have been aligned to that. And the rest, I would say that is 80% of my work, and the rest 20% of my work is more or less fun. I like to work with creativity and technology, and there is a spontaneous creation which happens, explorations which happen, and a lot of that is uh, partly because of that. I hope that kind of assimilates your question, Elsa.
That's really interesting how you work with these topics. This is the spot where art, culture, and tech actually intersect in your case. So I wanted to ask precisely, you worked with a wide range of technologies from AI and interfaces to blockchain and XR.
So, Dreamcatcher is a generative art. It's a 3D sculpture. So it has two parts essentially. Uh, the top part of the Dreamcatcher is a 3D model which I sculpted, and the rest of it is generated real time with code, the feathers, etc. So what happens is I go into a meditative state and I visit my subconscious in the deepest meditative state. And whatever images that surfaces out of my subconscious, I narrate it out using headphones, which converts this to an AI generated image, which is attached to the Dreamcatcher feathers. You can see a small circle at the bottom. So now what happens is during meditation, the feather slowly starts to grow downwards. And I'm also wearing an EEG headset. which is a brain-computer interface headset, which will actually tell whether I am calm or active. So if I am calm, the feathers colors will be vibrant. If I am active, it will be grayscale, gray color. So you can see colored feathers in between and gray colors in between, and then you can see an image connected at the bottom, a circle connected to the feathers. So what happens is over the course of this meditation, whatever image that surfaces in my mind, I narrate it out, and AI generates it into an image in a particular style which I've used, and it attaches to this dream catcher. And this dream catcher can be very long depending on how long the meditation session is, and you can see multiple dreams attached to the dream catcher itself. This project was initiated for the first time at Museum of the Future. After that, it was exhibited in Scope Art Show Miami, in a gallery in France. It was exhibited in multiple other places, a couple of awards. There is a published paper on this. You can read that also. And if you scan the QR code there, I don't know if you can scan it here, but after the talk, perhaps you can take time to scan the QR code. You can read more about it, see the 3D sculpture and the details of it. But yeah, so Dreamcatcher was one of those projects which expanded the scope of what I was working. It reached multiple areas, venues, and it really started this conversation around the internal world of ourselves, of all of us, how we are connected as a species internally, this collective consciousness of who we all are. I'll talk about two more projects of mine, and then we can have more discussion on it. Yeah, this project. This project is titled O, and this project was an AI video artwork. It's a 4 video artwork, and it is again on the states of consciousness, which are the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. This is again a continuation of my 5-year exploration into subconscious. The exciting part was that during the AI Action Summit, which was held in France a few months back, I was invited to exhibit this work by the French presidency and the Indian embassy there to exhibit it at the AI Action Summit. So at the summit, the 4 videos were arranged in a circular fashion. So there were these 4 massive screens in a circle, and each of these videos were exhibited in each of the screens. So the circular arrangement itself, that's why the title is O. So you have this waking stage, which is the 2 eyes at the top. The center 2 videos are dreams. So one is archetypal dreams, the other is day-to-day dreams. And the last one is the deep sleep state, around which the collective consciousness is shown. So it's a 1-minute video, each of it looped with some music. But the whole concept is to, again, explore, going into a little bit of ancient traditions and some amount of consciousness research, which is going on right now. I try to explore how we could translate, depict how awareness could be brought towards these states. And again, you can scan the QR code and read more about it. There's a lot more to it than what I explained here, of course. Yeah. So because we were talking about metaverse, we're talking about augmented reality, I thought I'll talk about this also. So a little bit of context here. This was created during the COVID lockdowns. This was in 2020 when NFTs haven't reached the mainstream, popularity that it has now. So I started creating a set of NFTs, but everybody was in their home. They couldn't travel, they couldn't see people face to face. It was all mostly chats and everything, and I thought it would be a cool idea to see if we could connect people globally through an art project. And this project called Pilgrimage was an exploration where I sculpted 9 3D sculptures, humanoid sculpture, one of which is on this PDF, and Another one is in 3D form right next to Elsa. If you can see, there's a green sculpture behind her. So Pilgrimage was a set of 9 3D sculptures um, uh, created using Blender, etc., and pinned to 9 locations around the world in augmented reality. And this was including places like Museum of Modern Art, the Louvre Museum, Jantar Mantar in India. Then there was Nigeria, there was
Wow.
Japan, there was many other places. So all these 9 locations were pinned to 9 sculptures were pinned to 9 locations around the world. And again, this was pretty new in digital art at that time. Perhaps there was only a Pokemon Go, which was before this. But again, Pokemon Go was it wasn't a single collectible as such. It was like, generated randomly. So these were single collectibles which are kept. And what I announced in social media was that if you go to this location and take a video of this sculpture in augmented reality with the location, I will give you this NFT for free. So this was what I said. And it's a COVID lockdown, and people can't really travel at this time. And these are 9 locations. Some of them are even very remote. Like in Japan, it's in Todaiji Temple, Nara, which is not like in a city or anything. It's so it was really hard for people, is what I imagined. And I announced it in social media. But the fascinating thing was, within 7 days, within a week, all 9 of them were collected. People were
Wow.
connecting with friends
Brilliant.
and families all around the world. They weren't traveling themselves, but they were connecting with people all around the world and telling that, hey, there is this culture over there. Just take a video of it and you send it to me. I was so amazing that it charged up the community towards this project that way. And it was great to see a lot of people from different places conversing about how they could connect to new people and experience this kind of gamified way of collecting at a global scale. Yeah, so these are right now in a way permanent installations at the Museum of Modern Art, Louvre, etc. right now, but in augmented reality. So it's not inside the museum, of course, but it's in and around it. So if you go to a website, if you're at the location, you can see the works in augmented reality. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's 3 of my projects. So I'll take some questions before going ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, exciting. I like it. It's like weaving tradition into the code of metaverse, and that's just amazing that you can see it on the right behind me, this 3D model. We have a beautiful tradition. We ask the speakers to leave some objects like this, and yeah, thank you, Fabin, for this. So I wanted to ask you some questions about technology, culture, and the MENA region. From your perspective, how is the immersive and creative tech scene evolving in the MENA region, especially in Dubai? So you've been living here for 3 years, as you said. So what unique here, and what are we still missing?
Yeah. So I've been in Dubai for about 3 plus years now, and one of the things that attracted me to Dubai was this open approach towards digital art, which that there was a community which was growing here, especially because of the NFT boom and because of the blockchain and crypto worlds. So there was a lot of conversation which was going around digital art, and also Dubai was headfirst in approaching digital art. For example, in Art Dubai, I think it was 3 years or 4 years back, Art Dubai started the digital section dedicated for digital art itself. And, there were curations which were focused on digital art. As I said, Dreamcatcher was first exhibited in Museum of the Future, and that was a digital art exhibition where a lot of folks in the blockchain space and some of the prominent artists in the MENA region, including folks like Sasha Jaffrey, who else? Vesa Kivinen, Matar Bin Lahej, all of these folks were exhibiting at that time. In digital versions of their physical works, in fact. So it was amazing to see how open and accepting it was. And right now, the scene has become so wide that a lot of galleries have opened up towards digital art. And if you think about it, it's not just Dubai. We are seeing this happening across Abu Dhabi. We're seeing across Saudi. We are seeing across multiple countries in the MENA region. And of course, I think Sandy just mentioned the Web3 community here. You think about it, there's a huge Web3 community here. There's a lot of folks, in and around building for Web3, investors, and a lot of folks in the crypto space here. So all of this has propelled digital art forward, is what I would say. Although because of the slump which was witnessed in the last few years, because of the market dynamics, and also because of a lesser investment coming into the arts at a global scale, I think there was a bit of a struggling period for the last few years for a lot of artists. But I see that changing now, at least since 2025 beginning. There's a lot more events happening, a lot more exhibitions happening, a lot more conversations happening, and of course, a lot more collection happening. So I think that's a positive thing which is happening. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that resonates, especially in the context of how the metaverse is evolving in the region and in the universities. They even study it because that's really about the modern world. So,
Yeah, I think I
yeah,
missed
yeah.
one part of your question where what could be more here, right?
What's unique, yeah, and
So
what's
yeah,
missing?
what's missing? Yes, yes. So
Uh,
I think what's unique here is, of course, you have all these high fidelity exhibition places in Dubai. I can talk about screens. I can talk about domes. I can talk about metaverse spaces. I can talk about large galleries. All of this is there here. So, as a digital artist, you have all kinds of possibilities for exhibiting. And a lot of, as I said, the conversations, a lot of it is going on. I think, having said that, what is missing right now is coming together of all the digital artists here, and to have one or maybe a few uh, places focused on creative tech. And I think that is coming up in some small areas. But for example, I can talk about what is happening in Saudi Arabia. There is something called the Diriyah Art Futures, which is focused on new media arts itself. It's a large institution which was recently formed. They're conducting residencies, exhibitions, etc. So, such an institution focus largely on new media arts and new media artists. I think would be really helpful for a lot of artists like me, to expand the scope of work here. That's what I would like to mention. Yeah.
yeah, beautiful put. There's a lot to unpack there in terms of cultural narratives, and that's really unique. In your view, how can artists and technologists in the MENA region use immersive tools to tell culturally resonant stories? What's needed to move beyond generic digital aesthetics? So, the Museum of Future, for example. So, what else?
So, see, moving beyond generic aesthetics and approaching culture. See, this whole conversation about culture is a tricky thing, right? So, culture is something which is established and it is something evolving. So, a lot of artists approach aesthetics such that they leverage what is existing and amplify those. There are other set of artists who go and investigate towards a newer form of aesthetics, and now that after a while becomes a part of a culture in itself. So I think both are required. I think if you think about it, metaverse now, before it was really hard for people to make a 3D model. to learn the skill of 3D modeling, and texturing, materials, lighting, and animation, rigging, everything. It was not that easy, and it was more of an exclusive skill. But as AI has emerged again with 3D models which generate 3D models. So AI models which
Yeah.
generate 3D models. So now it becomes easier for a larger set of artists to move towards this new medium, right? It becomes
Yeah.
more approachable, and I see a lot of people creating. And again, these models are very, very basic right now. I would say it's not giving high fidelity models. The research is ongoing, and I'm sure it'll change in a while. In a while, you could create worlds just using prompts. You could create whole games using prompts, which you see in its basic form nowadays. So now imagine the possibility that an artist could create a whole cultural narrative in the metaverse by a beautifully crafted prompt, and fine tuning that. Now, this is becoming more and more accessible, and I see a lot of artists who are working with physical media, who were traditionally working with only physical media, moving towards these new worlds. Um, and one last point I would like to mention is that because these headsets are becoming more prominent, say MetaQuests of the world, or the Apple Visions of the world, and it's becoming less heavier and more accessible in terms of its price point and in terms of its widespread usage. I see a world which will be more invested in not just virtual reality, but also augmented reality. And I think AR will have a much more, or let's say mixed reality, will have a much more uh, visible presence. So imagine you could create whole worlds, or you could tweak the aesthetic of your world based on a few voice commands, or based on a few prompts. Now that would be a whole new experience, right? And imagine you could share these
Exactly.
experiences immediately with others. Like I create a massive meadow right next to my home, and I share a game in it with a friend, and my friend comes there, and we play the game in that meadow, which is not there really, but you experience it. So it's kind of alt reality, but it brings out a lot more new expressions, and creation has changed from having this focused, fine-tuned tool-based skill towards more conversational way of creation. And I think that's largely going to be the future.
Yeah, and that brings us closer to how storytelling is evolving across Arab worlds. So some creators avoid strong cultural references in fear of being too specific or misunderstood. Do you think that's holding us back from richer narratives in the metaverse?
I see it like this, as long as you're not hurting anyone intentionally, I think we as artists should explore uh, explore a lot, is what I would say. Explore whatever our what do you say, our minds or our hearts tell us to do, because and that pure state of creation, I feel all the cultural elements will assemble in the right fashion for you. So having said that, if you're using cultural elements, the problem really is how there will be different perspectives on a creation, for that matter. So whatever you create, if it is viewed by 10 people, there will be 10 perspectives. Everyone comes from a different background, for that matter, right? So they will have a different perspective to it. So now what really matters is you as an artist, what are you intending towards, right? Are you doing this such that you're trying to weave a story around existing cultural narrative? So I would say, approach it openly, do it, explore it, and augment it. I mean, increase what is the status quo, right? Don't think that culture is just whatever is in the history. Culture is, as always, we can something we can evolve, right? So I think as an artist, I would perhaps approach it, I would work with culture, I would evolve it in my own way, and I would have good discussions with others to see what their perspectives are, which would again feed back into my own creation process. I think that's how I would approach this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a strong point, especially when we think about identity in the metaverse, or in like just digital presence in social media, etc. When working with cultural themes, I'd like to talk about symbolism and audiences now. When working with cultural themes, how do you navigate the tension between authenticity and accessibility? Should creators lean into recognizable symbols or challenge global audiences with deeper, unfamiliar elements?
um I would always align towards the latter, because I feel like symbols, there's a lot behind any symbol for that matter, rather than its obvious representation. Say for example, if you say take the symbol for peace. Now, the symbol for peace is in a particular fashion, which is widely accepted as the symbol for peace. But now, if you go deeper into it, if you study where its origins are from, um, you'll get a lot more understanding towards how these things work. And as someone who works with the subconscious, I feel like so for example, dreams are narrated in symbolisms and metaphors. You don't really get an XYZ kind of dream. You interpret a dream through metaphors, symbolism, how it connects to you as a person. It's not necessarily a language which is narrated linearly. So naturally you have to study what are these symbols mean. For example, there are archetypes in dreams which represent something which is globally perceived as a particular thing or element. But there are other symbols which are very personal to each person. So now there are interpretations which can happen in both ways, as a global perspective and from a personal perspective. So I would say it's up to us to really understand these things, and the more deeper you go, the more you mature as an artist, is what I feel. And there's a lot of poetry also which comes with studying what is culture, and how the history of culture, and how it really evolved into all what we see around us, right? So I think personally that evolves you as an artist. Your psychology, your psychology itself evolves a lot. So I think Elsa, I would definitely say go deeper into these things, study it, and sometimes when you create, it might be very spontaneous, and sometimes you will really have to make sure the intention is very clear. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this touches on something I've been thinking about, this tension between global and local, and it needs a really grounded observation. It speaks to both tradition and innovation, etc. Yeah. So, and coming back to this, to like symbolism and audiences. So, do you notice a difference between how local and global audiences respond to your work? Can you share an example where cultural context really shaped how a project was perceived?
Yeah, I think one of the works which I talk about, see, I talked about Dreamcatcher, right? Dreamcatcher, the symbol of the Dreamcatcher itself comes from some of the native cultures in the Americas. And what its origin as a symbol, there is a lot to it, where it was used as a symbol for keeping evil spirits away. That's one of the stories which is said, and it has an origin story of its own, how it came out, and again there are different versions of it. But when you study it, not just as a symbol which is created in a particular culture, but as a symbol which is there in the collective consciousness of humanity itself. Now you go deeper into meditating with the symbol, and you see what all kinds of connections arise from it. You get a lot of insights which perhaps can't be understood by just putting up an image on the screen, right? So there is a lot more deeper things which arise out of it. So when it is part of a culture, you know, taking it and using it in a way which doesn't resonate with their culture, now that is where a lot of conflict comes from in terms of cultural appropriation and everything, right? I personally, and probably it is because of what came from my own heart and my own meditations, I felt like I'm amplifying this cultural symbol as such through this process and marrying that with technology. And the people who have perceived it has also said, I'm leveraging, I'm amplifying or augmenting this whole symbolism through this project. But again, if this conversation goes, there are people, of course, with different perspectives. Maybe not the dream catcher. Maybe say the pilgrimage project. There are sculptures which are in different poses, which poses were which I kind of derived from some of the dance forms in multiple regions of the world. Now, although it isn't really explicitly saying it is this dance form or it's these things, the idea was to show there is common roots in all the cultures around the world, and the story is in itself a pilgrimage through these cultures around the world. That's why it was a global project, right? So I I think it's there will be different perspectives, but it's about seeing how you really study these cultures and seeing how you could you're not trying to make a big noise out of something, and you're not trying to harm anyone or anything. You're trying to amplify what is in the psyche of the collective consciousness as an artist. So I think if you're true to that spirit, if you're true to your heart, if you're true to what works, I think that will always emerge as something beautiful. I think that's what I've observed.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful put. That's a really great point about inspiration. And this insight really reflects the complexity of identity in digital worlds. And as to inspiration, I wanted to ask about your personal examples. What are some cultural or immersive projects, digital or physical or maybe phygital, that recently inspired you, whether from the MENA region or elsewhere? Maybe you were inspired by some particular cultures. So what shapes that?
Um, Yeah, so for example, as I said, I study philosophy, I study spirituality, I study a lot of religions across the world, and many of my works are rooted in some of these larger studies. And some of these works which I've exhibited also have roots in, if you think about it, in Indian philosophies like Vedic sciences, Buddhist philosophies, in Sufism, in many other cultures for that matter. And I don't differentiate between these things. I see that we are all part of the same organism. So we're just telling different stories from different perspectives about the same thing. But what helps is, if you really go into each of these, you see that they were not, I mean, if you study religion and philosophy really, you understand that just about it's not just a conversation on how to live a life, but on questioning what are the really larger questions, like who are we, why are we in this whole existence, what is this whole existence all about. How can we understand this? We talk about how we are connected. How are we connected deeply? How does this whole species align with other species in the planet? How do we work with? How do we work and love nature? All these deeper questions which comes up. Is from if you really go into all these, you'll really understand how the ancients have investigated this, and now you're going into what are the core scientific research into consciousness itself, what are the theories of consciousness, and what kind of research is going into the brain, biology, and neural interfaces. Now when you see a lot of these things and you read about these things, you see multiple connections which probably is not visible. um, and what you try to do is you bring all these things together into a narrative which is I wouldn't say obvious, but which is understandable for the current psyche, right? So I think, yeah, I've been inspired from a lot of these cultures, and as I said, I don't differentiate. I learn, I respect, and I try to tell it in my own way. It doesn't mean that I'm creating some new topic out of it, because I firmly believe that there is nothing really new in this world. It's all a remix. It's all a remix which is happening, and I'm not saying it in a very nihilistic or a negative fashion, but when I say nothing is new in this world, I see that we are all standing in the shoulders of giants. We are inspired from nature, inspired from a lot of other things, and we are creating from that. So I think it's the collective which is creating, rather than a person sitting and saying, "Hey, I created this, I own this." No, that's I don't think that is really happening. I
Mhm.
think we as a collective is really creating through each of us.
Yeah, yeah, all these things definitely worth exploring further, and it holds a lot of potential, and that's a really interesting point about creating or not, who created it. So I think that's a good idea to further and talk about innovation and future visions. So you're known for working with cutting-edge tools, AI, generative systems, voice and gesture interfaces. What are the most exciting trends you see in immersive and creative technology right now?
I think this whole idea of world models, right? Which is largely generating worlds using prompts and maybe conversations, etc. I think that's very interesting in a way, because it's kind of okay. I'm just keeping the philosophy apart, the whole simulation theory and everything apart. But if you think about it, um, we are immersed in a world right now, and we are now creating mini worlds within this world. And we are all, as a group of people, entering into each of those mini worlds. And because so far, say, a metaverse world like spatial or etc. Can be created by a particular set of skilled folks, now it is changing to a fashion where anybody could create a world with from their own vision. And the interesting fact is there is this whole research towards generating worlds on the fly, where an AI model will generate uh, a world in real time. For example, say if you're exploring a 3D version of Dubai, and you reach the one end of Dubai, suddenly the AI model will generate the rest of it for you. Now the possibilities at that time becomes endless. You could probably generate a different version of Dubai extending to another thing, but it can be either done intentionally by yourself, or the AI based on your psychology through conversations. For example, you've been having this
Mhm.
conversation with the AI that I love nature so much. I really want to go to an area where there is a lot of water and there's a lot of trees. Now, what happens is, based on this psychological profile of yourself, the AI would generate a more green world for you after one end. And I'm not saying that a more greener part for you after this section. So what I'm saying is this whole idea of studying your psychology, which is scary in one way, but if we look at it in a more positive light, studying of your psychology, if it is done well in a private environment, generating things surprising you based on what fulfills your psychology, I think that's very interesting. And now that's going to play a huge role, not just in virtual reality. As I said, it could go into mixed reality, augmented reality, etc. And I'm sure that will come into a lot of artworks also in many ways. Those would be our next galleries. This whole world would be a gallery in that way. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes these metaverse, AR, XR, and new technologies really meaningful. And I really dream of the day when I can leave the house wearing some lenses, and that would create some new environment, especially for me, as you said, like more nature, more green, etc. Yeah, that's really nice. So, and we also we talked with Ira on previous MetaTalks session about like creating smells, for example, in VR. And I'd like to ask you, are there any speculative or experimental mediums you're personally curious about, like factory experiences, I don't know, biofeedback or brain-computer interfaces, and how far can immersive tech go in recreating consciousness or presence? Yeah,
Okay.
smell.
I mean, a lot of them actually. I mean, smell is definitely a beautiful topic. There's a lot of innovation going on there, but because I work with dreams and subconscious imagery, so one of the innovations which I was really interested to hear recently was, there's a it's not that new. Probably it's a few years down now. There is this research which was happening in Osaka University in Japan and few other universities around the world, where they were using MRI machines to convert your dreams into AI images, and the success rate was pretty good in that way. So now it's in an MRI machine. Slowly, that will condense down to something smaller, like a Black Mirror episode. No, maybe not a Black Mirror, maybe a White Mirror episode for that matter. What I'm
Mm,
saying is, it will be such a small device which could actually communicate your um, thoughts or your visualizations instantly with others. Now, kind of like a telepathy for thoughts. Now, you
mm,
really wouldn't be using language at that time. You would be communicating in thoughts, and now translating thoughts into feelings. Now, how could you communicate feelings, which is and this is a very interesting topic, because I've been having this conversation about how do you communicate feelings. We usually use language, the English language or any other language for that matter, linearly to tell something, and that evokes a feeling in the other person based on the poetics or based on the beauty of whatever it is, or on the other side also. Now, how do you communicate it without language? How do you communicate it in another way across the world, across planets, across galaxies? How do you communicate that, right? How and Not just feelings, the kind of visualizations you have, and all of those things. So I think there are investigations going on. There are a lot of research going on in these areas, and I think that really excites me. I keep reading about these all the time. Yeah.
yeah. I think there were some plots like this in the series Black Mirror with languages, etc. Yeah, that's valuable lens to look through, particularly here in immersive spaces. And I'd like to ask now you about your current goals, either personally or with your collaborators and platforms. Any upcoming projects or initiatives you'd like to share with us?
Okay. I'm Currently completing my PhD in the same area, mental imagery, consciousness, etc. So that's one,
Mm.
one larger track of my time. And the other thing is, I'm expanding the New Movers project into a larger installation, uh, into collective consciousness, where it's not just one person who is sharing dreams and creating imageries or visuals out of it, but it's a larger collective of people. And I actually announced one of those projects, the ongoing project right now. Essentially, what happens is a lot of people come towards a system and share their dreams or visions on a topic, and that creates a larger collective consciousness visual on a dome or a screen or a, I don't know, sphere or whatever it may be. So what happens is, for example, whoever is sitting here in the spatial room, everybody has their own vision of, say, the future. Now, what if you can all share the vision of the future and we combine them together using AI to create a grander vision, which is the collective vision of all of us here? Now, I believe that this collective vision is what actually manifests as the actual future. So there would be a lot of parallels between the collective vision and the future itself. So it's an interesting topic. It's a hypothetical. It's a very speculative topic also, but it's interesting to study this. And that's one area which is a large focus of mine right now. Yeah.
Yeah, such a good plan, and generally, I think, as to me, I will be following what you're doing, and yeah, really looking forward to your next projects. So, finally, what advice would you give to new creators, especially in the MENA region, who want to innovate at the age of art, tech, and culture? And how can they stay rooted while also reaching a global audience?
See, I think one important thing is, a digital presence. Even if you're a creator using physical medium, that's, digital presence in the sense, not just a social media account for that matter, but connecting with digital galleries, digitally to global galleries. So the usual trend is that, if you're from a particular region, say MENA, or say you're EMEA, like European regions, or wherever it is for that matter, you have a tendency to exhibit only within that region itself. But right now, because of the global connect, it is possible with a few emails to exhibit around the world. And I would say, as an emerging artist, as even for that matter, as an established artist, it's always good to have a global presence and to connect all over the world and exhibit it. You really don't need to travel all of those places. There would be people who would take care of all everything for you in a very well-defined way. You just need to share your art. Now, physical art, transporting and everything, that has its own problems. But when it comes to digital art itself, you have a lot of possibilities. You can always convert some of your physical medium into digital mediums also. Now, specifically towards art and tech, I think the obvious thing that people talk about. I mean, it's obvious that it's AI. AI being what it is. I would say there are a lot of naysayers for AI, but I would say approach it openly. Think of it as something new. Think of it as something to explore. Integrate it into your own workflows and see how you could create something new out of it. There was one project which I did in 2019 where I explored how can I create AI brushes. We have physical brushes. What would happen if we create brushes with AI? And this was a 1 year
Mhm.
project with a lot of explorations which went into it. So what I'm saying is, we all have this tendency that we don't know anything about these technology. And I'm not talking about everyone here. I mean, there are a lot of people who work with technology these days, but the ones who are new to some of these tech, you might think that it is a little hard, but just jump in. It is what I would say. Explore, keep creating, and also, because the MENA region, there is a lot of activities happening, meetups happening, and galleries, of course, like Inloco Gallery, which is connecting these worlds together. I think it's always
Yes.
good to have these conversations, attend talks, conferences. I went to the um, Dubai Future Forum last year, and it wasn't necessarily for the art, but there were a lot of conversations which inspired me and give me perspective of what is happening around the world. So I think it's all about going to different places and understanding what's happening around the world, and understanding these technologies. We can always show resistance towards a lot of these things, but the more open you are, the more you mature as a person, is what I've always felt. So yeah.
That's a good point about visibility, and yeah, I agree. And I think this is where digital presence meet real world heritage, and we have really a lot in Dubai to work with. I think we are going to close this conversation. So thank you so much, Fabin, for this inspiring and expensive conversation, from code to consciousness, and from design to deeper meaning. You've shown us what happens when technology becomes a tool for inner and outer exploration. And to everyone who joined us today on Spatial, thank you for being here. Write in the chat if you want to share your thoughts, if you want to ask the questions. We'll be here for a few minutes more. And yeah, let's wait for them, for the questions. A Jim Bali translator from mind to mind directly. Yeah, that's a good thought, Little Mermaid, but I think then we could lose the meaning of conversation and meaning of human interactions. But yeah, sometimes we need it, especially when we work with art or design or something. Yeah. By the way, you can also unmute yourself and ask your questions loud. So, or write them in the chat. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. And while we are waiting for the questions, I just wanted to say that you'll also find portals around this space leading to the website, Fabin, to Instagram and bio, etc. So feel free to explore them. By the way, you also can find Fabin in Twitter or X. These portals will be here for a couple of days, as well as the PDF file, just for you to explore it. And so let's see if we have questions. Okay. Okay, I think we don't have questions for now. So yeah, again, thank you so much, Fabin. And so before we wrap, I suggest you to make a group photo, as we usually do. I will firstly move this PDF to the wall